I don't know if any of you know, but for example, Rob and Daniel, the ones who started FreeCodeCamp Vienna, have both had a very nice and very interesting success story. So they, if I'm not mistaken, I hope this is not something wrong I'm saying, but I think both of them got their first job as programmers with FreeCodeCamp curriculum on their, let's say, resume as a programmer, and not much else in terms of coding or background. And I've been following FreeCodeCamp since January 2018. And one of the reasons why I have is because that's when I became seriously interested in programming. My background is very mixed. I've worked both as a translator and as an economist. However, it has always been, I've always had a passion for computers. This started when I was a kid. Computers had just come out, and I desperately wanted a computer. My first computer was a 386. And I remember even now that I wanted my parents to get me a 486, and they got me the 386, and I cried and cried. It was the end of the world for me because I had such plans for that computer, and then they got me the lesser one. Anyway, that's where it started. It was an intense moment, and ever since then, again, it has always been a part of my life. So wherever I went, one way or another, I was maybe entrusted with some more techie stuff. I was the Excel guy in the company, or I was the person who could, troubleshoot some kind of hardware problem which went beyond a restart. And so my interest, along with these little elements, they grew into a little bit of knowledge. And they kind of brought me to right the beginning of 2018, when I decided, okay, I know some hardware, I understand operating systems, but honestly, I would like to understand this programming thing. What's this about? Because this seems like where the magic is at, right there. And okay, I said, I'm going to start researching. I'm going to learn how to program. I didn't know what I'm going to start with. So after, I'm sure a lot of people know who are maybe just starting or have started at some point really from scratch, that research process of what my first programming language is going to be, that can be really draining. That can be very intense. After this intense process, I've actually decided on JavaScript, and I started with FreeCodeCamp. I started going through the curriculum, and immediately I started getting more and more involved with activities such as meetups, such as the FreeCodeCamp meetups, but other ones as well. I started going to hackathons almost immediately. So I knew absolutely nothing, and yet I was at a hackathon in about 2 months after starting to learn to program, and had an incredible amount of fun. And I understood that it actually, programming has a place in everybody's life, let's say, and that place can be very different from person to person. And that's what the first part of this talk is about. The fact that not every journey that involves learning to program has to end in a software developer position. Because this is how I started. I thought, I'm going to learn to program, and most probably at some point I'm going to end up a software developer. But I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. Something completely different happened. So after being involved in all of these events and hackathons, I started slowly understanding where coding fits into my life. Because I am currently working as a business analyst for a medical device manufacturer. And let's say to some degree, I was a little bored because I had these sales reports to generate. I was working with a lot of Excel. But after you figure out the ins and outs, to some degree, it starts becoming routine. Some elements become a routine. So for me, adding this coding element into my knowledge pool provided an opportunity, and I used it basically to spice up my daily job. When I say my daily job, so like I said, I'm a business analyst, but I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. So I have to do some sales reporting. I have to do some IT stuff. And I also have to take care of data protection ever since May 2018. And so in the summer of last year, in the summer of this year, I went to a FreeCodeCamp meetup and somebody presented Oracle Apex. And for those who are not familiar with Oracle Apex, this is a framework, a low-code framework that's developed by Oracle, and they provide it for free, as long as you're using an Oracle database. The good thing is that you don't need a licensed Oracle database. You can also use the community edition of the Oracle database. And since I was doing a lot of business intelligence in Excel, and I had, for example, to shuffle a lot of Excel files, and because we have a Salesforce which every person is responsible for one particular area, and I had to divide those sales to different people, and it was always to some degree manual, and it was a lot of data cleaning and a lot of not so fun work, including always the possibility that I'm sending the wrong Excel file to the wrong person and therefore creating a little bit of an incident. I thought, you know what, I'm going to use my programming knowledge. Well, first of all, I was really excited about this framework because I thought this is a very good system for me. Like I said, I discovered that programming had a place in my life, and it wasn't that of the software developer. I had no time for that at work. So I thought, how can I use it? I needed a little bit of a structure, and Oracle Apex provided that structure. Oracle Apex is, like I said, a low-code framework which takes care of a lot of the basics. Those who are software developers know that frameworks, this is to some degree what frameworks do, right? Frameworks take away the things that pretty much every software development project needs. Let's say things like security, or things like templating, boilerplates, formatting. And Oracle Apex does all of that. The paradigm is that you have a database in the back, and in the front you have a web application which communicates with that database. And some software developers would say, okay, but that's very limited. I can program all of that from scratch. And I have totally respect for that, but I also know how long that takes. And also, yeah, some people don't necessarily have the luxury to do that, to some degree reinvent the wheel from scratch, but also put their own mark on it. So for me, this was the way to go. I couldn't program from scratch anything, so I chose Apex. And another really cool thing that I'm going to talk about and I'm now going to show is the fact that Oracle just announced that this low-code framework is now available in their autonomous cloud. When I implemented this, this was, like I said, at end of summer 2019, this did not exist, which meant a bit of a painful process of setting everything up, because I took the Oracle Community Edition database and then the Oracle Apex and then everything else that there's a wrapper on top of that, and had to make it work. That was quite painful. Right now, if somebody wants to do the same thing, they don't have to do any of that. So what happens is that Oracle has released this autonomous database, and they have a free tier where they offer a limited amount of resources, and based on that, one can create a licensed database, and on top of that, they can use Oracle Apex. So I'm going to try to run you through the process of creating a database like that on the cloud from Oracle. So let's assume you do have already the account. If you create a data warehouse, you need to choose display name, database name, basic things. One of the main decisions is what kind of a workload are you going to be having. Data warehouse is more for data analytics kind of workload, and the transaction processing is, like I said, for this paradigm of having a front end which communicates with the back end. So we're going to choose the transaction processing for this situation. Then we're going to go with serverless. We don't have our own dedicated infrastructure. We're going to use what Oracle has to offer. We're going to have the always free elements, therefore you never have to worry that at some point you might start to incur costs. And you can see here the limitations, right? You have one CPU and about 20 gigs of storage. Don't think that this is slow. One CPU in this Exadata infrastructure which Oracle provides, this is it too small? I see some people squinting. Sorry, let me try to increase the size of this. No. Okay, me and Matt. There we go. So yeah, this Exadata infrastructure from Oracle is serious business. So one CPU there is gonna provide you with a very fast backend for basic needs and even beyond basic needs. Hopefully you don't need so much storage more than the 20 gigs, but since it's a database and it's very optimized, I think a lot of people can make do with that. Right, and then we can actually create a database. We can provide a password. We can, we can say that we want the included license, and then we can just create the database. Now, I'm not going to do this because this takes a little bit of time. What happens once you click create is that the database starts being provisioned, and it takes, let's say, about 5 to 10 minutes. And as soon as that happens, you can access it. And so now I'm going to show you what this looks like with one that I've already created. So right here, I have this database. And you can see that it was created for this kind of workload transaction processing. The storage is 20 gigs, one CPU. So everything is on the free level. Now, if you go to the service console, you're going to be presented with some statistics. But most importantly, there's this button for development. Now, under development, you get these frameworks, such as the Oracle Apex, which sits on top of the database. Some of you might be familiar with the SQL Developer, which is normally something that one has to install locally. Here, it's also provided in the cloud. But let's go ahead and open Oracle Apex. We're presented with a logging screen. I think I'm already logged in. Yeah. So once you log in here, you're presented with the Oracle Apex window. And first, I'm going to show you kind of what's possible. Let's say. So if we go to create, and we okay, if we go to create, we have to log in again. Right. If we create a new application, we can start from scratch. We can start from a file which contains the data that we're going to be processing, or we can choose one of their so-called productivity apps, which is basically a template, a ready-made application. And I've already installed the decision manager. Let's just go through the installation process just so you see how quick and easy it works. I'm going to go with the team productivity group calendar. I'm going to click Install App. And yeah, we're going to wait for a few minutes. And then as soon as we have this, as soon as this is installed, we're going to have a fully functioning cloud-based web application with a licensed Oracle database in the background, which brings you all of the performance benefits. It brings you, it's an HTTPS connection. Not only that, every time that there is a new database and there is a new version of Apex, it's immediately upgraded. This for me, for example, was a bit of a problem. I thought I was going to have to go through the same painful process as I did initially when I installed the Oracle Apex and the database at my workplace, that I'm going to have to do that all over again once there's a new version. All of that is gone in the cloud because Oracle simply updates it for you. Right, so we've installed the group calendar. Let's see what this looks like. In the beginning, when we're presented with a kind of a small settings menu, let's say we're going to give everybody reader access. Here we can add some new users. We're not going to do that right now. We are getting the option of having some sample data loaded. We're going to do that so that we can play around with it, and a couple of features. Let's just complete the setup. And there it is. Now, the link right now looks kind of scary. It's huge and very difficult to remember. If we were to shorten this, it would be much more accessible, and we could, for example, benefit from another thing that Oracle offers is the fact that this entire framework is perfectly ready to run on a mobile device, no matter what the mobile device is, be it a cell phone or a tablet. It's immediately scalable, and the whole thing just works out of the box. So let's see what we've just installed. We have a group calendar. We can see the calendar. It even has, like I said, some sample data. Let's look at this weekly sales update. What is this? We have a lot of time, when the meeting takes place, what's it about, who created it, are there any attachments, are there any updates. There's even, I think, there's basically a kind of a communication option where you can say, hey, I'll be late, right? And then one creates this, and then it's like a small forum, right? Where it's very similar to the meetup functionality. I don't know if you know, currently FreeCodeCamp is trying to get away from meetup.com because they kind of pulled a weird stunt where they tried, or at least there was some rumor that they would start charging for the meetups, which is when FreeCodeCamp said, okay, none of this, we're going to create our own. But for example, if you have a need for creating your own kind of meetup-y system framework, you could directly use this. So this would be, you could add new users, you could add events. Let's have a new event and look and see what this looks like. So we're going to say FreeCodeCamp 42 because it's a good number, and we're going to choose one specific calendar, what kind of a meetup it is, when does it start, etc., etc., etc. Who's the contact person? Maybe some links in order for the people to see what are the presentations going to be, and then we just create the event. Let's actually choose a date. Let's create the event for tomorrow at 12, and let's create it. Immediately it shows up in here, and all of the users have access. They can start adding details, comments, files, etc., etc., etc. You can have a different view, for example, a timeline style view instead of the calendar view. One can search. Let's have a look at FreeCodeCamp. Let's see where it is. Immediately you find it searches all of the columns instantly, and so we find the meetup that we've just created. You can see things are color-coded based on event type. So you have a lot of functionality it's just given to you, and you need to work with it. You can have some administration. There's a lot of, you can look at which users are using it, who is the most intense user, what are the notifications, reporting. You can send emails to all of the users. So literally, this is meetup.com from Oracle. If you wanted to, you can start adding your own functionality. I'm not actually going to mess with this, but I'm going to show you one last thing here. So let's say I don't use the inbuilt applications. I'm going to create an application from scratch, and I'm going to say new application. We're going to give it a name, so it's going to be FreeCodeCamp 42. You can choose the formatting here, a lot of details. We're going to skip through all of that. It's going to create the application. Okay, and here we have it. We have a global page, a home page, and a login page. These are the basics. If I run it and I log in, we're going to see those 3 pages. Well, we're going to see okay. I'm going to have to do this without talking. 1 second. There we go. So we have a homepage. The functionality is there, again, immediately accessible from a mobile device. Let us actually create something. So we're going to go to the homepage, which is the one we were looking at. And why is it called a low code? Because you can see that a lot of elements are already provided, and you don't have to worry about, for example, security or a lot of paradigms that come with a software development project. This is a little bit similar to your window page, the document from HTML, and we're going to have regions, and within within this region, within this category, we're going to create a new region. And within this region, we're going to create a chart. Immediately they ask us, okay, what do you want to display in this chart? So let's choose a source. In this case, you can choose a SQL query or a PL SQL query or a table. Let's take one of the tables that's provided to us by default. Let's take something that's potentially, hopefully relevant. Decision nodes. Let's take decision projects. Let's see what this is about. So it's telling us what exactly it's expecting here under these messages. So it's saying that it wants a mapping for the label. The map for the label, it's going to be the project name in this case, and it wants to aggregate a value. You can see that it already tells you in this table that you've chosen, there are some data types which are just wrong for aggregation. So don't even bother choosing that. So what I'm going to try to use, it's not ideal, but I'm going to take created, and let's see if this looks like anything. I'm going to run it. Yeah, no, this was not a good choice. It's saying no data to display. Let's see. Let me try something else. I did not plan on which chart I should use, and that was a mistake. Okay, I'll make it simpler. I'll take an interactive grid. It's not giving me an interactive, come on, there we go. Yeah, an interactive report rather. And we're just going to take the same table, if I can find it, the project, yes. Let's run this. It wants something from me. Table name. Didn't I already tell you this? Projects, let's see. Ooh, okay, this is painful. Okay. All right. Long story short, low code is not as low as you might imagine. I've even lost I've actually lost the page. So I'm not sure where I lost the page. There I lost the page, yeah. Low code means still that you have to get used to the framework, no doubt, just like with any framework. But this, in my opinion, in my experience, is far easier to get used to. For me, it was like this because you're not presented with that blank page in the IDE, and you're like, go on, create, write some code. And many of us, maybe I dare say, many of us go, okay, Stack Overflow, I'm going to copy paste some stuff, and I'm going to hack something together. Right? So all of that goes away. To wrap this up, because I'm out of time, yeah, my journey with learning to code began with the thought of, I'm going to learn to code and I'm going to end up a software developer. Absolutely not the case. I do not have the time at work to work I could change my job, but I really love it and I love the team and so on and so forth, but I wanted to still make use of it. So then I introduced it in a different way. And that different way is by making use, for example, of a framework. And I can also tell you that I'm only taking care of this system at work on a superficial level because I've hired a programmer. It was actually the person who presented the framework during the FreeCodeCamp meetup. And I realized just how important it is to be able to talk to a programmer. It might sound silly, but actually, without understanding some programming, if I'm just a manager or somebody, doesn't have to be a manager, just anybody who's trying to, transmit a need. I need you to create meetup.com for me, with as little resources as possible and as quick a time as possible. So the capacity to transmit that is actually very important. And I would not have been able to do it without going through my journey with coding. And to some degree, FreeCodeCamp really facilitated that. So that was the talk. Thank you very much.